This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and today we're going to look at a more affordable, kind of more mainstream laptop. This is the Lenovo Flex 2 15. Lenovo likes putting those two numbers together just so you can have fun remembering all that. There's also a Flex 2 14 for those of you who like things a little bit smaller, but this is the 15 and not the 15D, which had an AMD CPU inside. Second generation here, great improvements in the display. Good set of ports. In fact, this one even has an optical drive, and it has the 300-degree hinge. It's cheaper than the Yoga series because you get 300 degrees, but not 360 degrees of rotation. And we're going to look at it now. So this is the Lenovo Flex 2 15, meaning it's the 15 or really 15.6-inch model. Like I said, there is a 14-inch model available as well. Second generation for the Flex series, and some significant improvements inside. Most particularly, the display quality is a lot better. Now, the Flex series is less expensive than the Yoga series, and it goes, 4/5 of the way, shall we say. It's a 300-degree hinge rather than a 360-degree hinge. What does that mean to you? It means you can do presentation mode. You can do tint mode. It has a very stiff hinge, by the way, folks. You can go all the way this far. So we got tint mode right here. What you don't get is tablet mode. I don't think that anybody is going to be heartbroken because, well, it's relatively speaking for a 15.6-inch laptop, it's pretty light, 5.1 pounds. It's still 5.1 pounds. You're probably not going to be using this as a tablet. Even the Flex 14, it's a little large for tablet use, but I think a lot of people would probably want to use it like this, so you can just watch it, prop it up, watch a video. If you're just surfing the web and you can use the nice touchscreen on here, it makes a certain kind of sense then. Honestly, for me, 15 inches and any kind of rotating hinge, I don't know, it's kind of heavy, it's kind of big, but that's really up to you. Obviously, you can use it full flat if you wish to do so here, and that can be handy for playing games. You can lay it flat on the table, touch screen up, and play a little air hockey, that sort of thing. Matte black plastic construction, not bad looking, not stunning looking, pretty stiff and robust hinges, really stiff right there. Ventilation over here, and over there as well, and there's a lot of little screws right here. Now to open this guy up is more work than usual as far as I can tell. I've unscrewed all the bottom screws here. You still can't take off the bottom cover. I believe that you actually have to remove the keyboard as well, so do-it-yourselfers, keep that in mind. That said, it does have upgradable internals here. You've got 4th generation Intel Haswell U series CPUs, the same ones used on Ultrabooks. This happens to be the Core i5-4210U 1.7 gigahertz, and of course it is turbo boost for faster. You can also go with the i7, but you've got a 2.5-inch drive bay inside of here. There's a caching SSD slot because many of them have conventional hard drives like this one does. It has 500 gig, 5400 RPM, and a 8 gig caching SSD. It has 2 RAM slots inside too, and of course the usual socketed wireless card. So that part's nice. While we're looking at it, on this side you can see we've got healthy selection of ports. It's a big enough machine to support that. We've got the usual rectangular Lenovo charging connector right there, lock slot, full-size HDMI Ethernet. That's nice to have right there. A little drop-down door so you can get the RJ45 jack all the way in. USB 3.0 port, and we have our combo audio jack as well. And on this side we have SD card slot, full-size card slot, 2 USB 2.0 ports. There's a little Novo button, as they call it, for their one-key recovery solution. Very hard to see. It's a little pokey hole. Use a paper clip on that. And here's our optical drive, which is a DVD burner. Nice to have that. It seems to be disappearing from a lot of laptops, and the power button is right there. So how much does this cost? Lenovo starts these off with lower end CPUs around $480 or so. This one that's pretty nicely configured with that Core i5 6 gigs of RAM, a 500 gig hard drive with an 8 gig caching SSD, a full HD IPS touchscreen, obviously the optical drive, is around $660 to $700. So it's not every laptop you can show off the keyboard this way. And something that's pretty neat here is you actually get a number pad. I know some of you really love that, but you'll get that on 17-inch laptops pretty much always, but 15-inch not so much. So for those of you who are fans of having the dedicated number pad on the side, you do get that here. Standard arrow keys also over here, and a roomy enough keyboard, even though we made room for this number pad over here. It's Lenovo's AccuType keyboard. You can hear the sound of it. Nice, damped, tactile feel. Not a huge amount of key travel, especially considering this isn't the world's skinniest laptop, though among 15-inch laptops in this price range, it is on the slimmer end of things, and really doesn't give much, just a teeny weeny bit if you press down. Pretty firm. It's also backlit, and like all Lenovo keyboards, if you want to turn the keyboard backlighting on, you hit the F, N, and the space bar. That's what that little symbol right there means. That means keyboard backlighting. So all in all, a good keyboard, a pleasant keyboard. Wouldn't mind a little bit more travel, but the damping, the tactile feel, the shape of the keys, all very nice, and having the number pad, of course, also very cool. Trackpad down below is roomy, it's well behaved, but it's a very slick surface. Now, I personally don't like that much because your finger just goes whoop, 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 you know, very easily. So I had to slow down the trackpad acceleration to compensate for that. But otherwise, it's fine. It's your usual buttonless whole trackpad moves kind of clicky thing. Not bad, and for those of you who are wondering why it's offset, it is offset to keep it centered under the space bar. That's why. So when you're typing, it's directly below here. Kind of got a textured deck. I actually like that a little bit. It's got the striations on here, so it's not too slippery. It also doesn't really show fingerprints much, which is quite nice. And the hinge, from the top view, you can see is quite a robust creation. You might actually mistake this for a battery, removable battery. It's not. This is just part of the extremely rugged hinge design on here. We've got rubber bumper feet on this side as well, so keeps it from sliding off the table. Always a good thing to have it not do that. Of course, if you're using it in presentation mode, like so, the keys do face down. They are disabled whenever you take it out of laptop position, though, so if anything touches them, it's not going to matter. That's okay. So opening it up, finally we get to see the display here. Windows 8.1 64-bit, again, standard Intel Core Haswell CPUs inside. And it's a nice enough display. In terms of viewing angles, it's actually very good. It's an IPS display, glare display, glossy display. The touchscreens almost always are. And there is plenty of glare there. If you're in a really bright room like we are right now, you'll pick up plenty of glare. And the brightness is good enough for indoor use, but it's not super duper bright to combat, well, super bright room glare like we have right here if you're going to try to use it outdoors. That would be my only complaint. Otherwise, it's a perfectly nice display, a definite improvement over the last generation Flex machines. And this one happens to be full HD, 1920 by 1080. Now, the lower end models have 1366 by 768 displays, so all Flex 2s are not created the same. If you want the full HD, be careful to pay attention to specs and make sure it says 1080p. Lenovo puts the modest amount of bloatware on here. Some of it's actually for maintaining the computer, which is never a bad thing. And they bundle some things that are actually useful to some folks anyway. Evernote's right there. We have Zinio for digital magazines. Kindle's on here. Hightail, which is sort of like file sharing stuff. Their Photo Touch Editor. You get the idea. And these things, these live tile apps are very small, but you can delete any that you want. You can delete any of the software that's preloaded, obviously, on this. Since it has a 500 gig hard drive, space is really not at a premium here, which is pretty cool. If you want to custom order a machine on Lenovo's website, you can actually get it with an SSD drive, but you're getting into some pretty pricey stuff there, and probably there are higher end models Lenovo offers that might appeal more than spending, say, $1,000 or $1,100 on the Flex 2, which is meant to be a mid-price value line, has all the bases covered kind of machine. So here you can see the specs of our machine. Like I said, it costs around $660, $700 or so on Amazon right now. The Core i5, 6 gigs of RAM. It does have 2 RAM slots. Like I said, opening this up is not the way simplest thing in the world, but it is possible if you want to upgrade your RAM. And it's nice to have 2 RAM slots, actually. Bluetooth on here, and our Wi-Fi is single band. This is going back to the bad days of the IdeaPad from Lenovo. Still single band, 802.11n, and it is a Broadcom card inside, at least on our model. Display has plenty of room here with 125% scaling. Arguably, if you have good eyes, you go with just 100% scaling, which means no zooming. There's plenty to see on screen. There's our website right there. Now, in terms of performance, benchmarks, PC Mark 7, 2689. Why is that so much lower than some Ultrabooks with the same CPU that score 4689? Because it has a hard drive, and PC Mark gives a lot of extra bonus points to SSDs because they make the machine feel faster. Doesn't mean it computes things any faster, but programs do load faster if you have a full SSD drive. The caching drive in this case is, again, an 8 gig one. It helps certainly for boot times. Boot times are not bad on this. Windows load times, not going to change application load times too much, though. W prime, it computed pi in 23.5 seconds. That's more accurate estimation of CPU prowess, and that's pretty much typical for a Core i5U Haswell CPU. Geekbench 3, 2427 on multi-core. Again, this is indicative of the processor capability, and 4490 for the multi-core test. So it does fine there. Since this is basically an Ultrabook inside, just with a bigger display to power, still Intel HD 4400 integrated graphics, by the way, has a very small and light power charger here. You really don't need a big one because you're not powering a demanding quad-core full mobile CPU or dedicated graphics or anything like that. Surprisingly, given that it's mostly Ultrabook internals inside, you do hear the fan coming on from time to time. It's not obnoxious, but it comes on, it's a little bit louder than I would have expected for something like this, especially because there's a lot of room for ventilation and a very big chassis. Lastly, there's battery life. Lenovo claims 6 hours, which is not that impressive for something that's Ultrabooky. There's room for, in theory, plenty of battery in here. Granted, we do have the optical drive taking up a lot of space inside, so that could affect battery design. 6 hours doesn't impress me that much. Now, I would tell you how we did, but actually our machine had a little problem from the factory where it only runs on the charger, so we were not able to do our battery life tests. So all in all, it's a mainstream sort of laptop, 15.6-inch size. It has a good selection of ports. It has the optical drive, which is a rarity, a full HD IPS display. Now that's nice with touch built in. Price is reasonable for what you get, certainly, but there's competition to consider. Recently, ASUS has come out with several, models that kind of copy the Yoga Hinge and give you rotation up to 360 degrees in a similar price point. And in part, it's going to depend on what brand you like and what styling you like better between this and the ASUS competition. But there aren't many others in this price range, and certainly in this size range, that have the 300-degree hinge. As to how useful that hinge is, like I said, I think it's probably pretty good. If you're going to watch movies, you can put it in presentation mode if you're just surfing the web and you set it up on the coffee table. But obviously, even though it's fairly light for a machine this size, it's way big and hefty to be using as a tablet anyway. And I would say the same thing is true for the Flex 214. So that's the Lenovo Flex 215. No, it's not a wearable. Yes, you could put it on your shoulder if you wanted. That's how stiff the hinge is. If you're looking for a larger laptop with full amenities in terms of ports, the optical drive, and a very good, actually, full HD display, well, this is it. And you do get the hinge as well. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Don't forget to hit that like button.